Good evening. This is One and the Same. We haven't been here for a while. Good evening, Judith.
Good evening. How are you, Gary?
I'm great. We have a show tonight that might seem a little unusual. Our guest tonight is Hemlal Kafle. Did I pronounce it right?
Absolutely.
I never thought I'd be able to speak
Nepalese,
but I did. We're going to have it's going to be talking about trafficking services, human trafficking in Minnesota, in Ramsey County. And we have the program director for the Catholic Charities Victims of Trafficking Services program. So, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. So I'd like to start out by just asking you straight, we'll jump right into this. What is human trafficking, and is it really an issue? Is it really a problem in Minnesota?
I'm very glad that you asked that question because a lot of people tend to have misunderstanding of the concept of human trafficking. And it is one of the largest problem right underneath the drug trade. Human trade is the second most profitable industry in the world. Human trafficking is basically when the individuals are been transformed from one place to next. It does not have to be within the international boundaries. It can be from St. Paul to Minneapolis for exploitation purpose. Basically, it could be from the labor force, could be sexual exploitation, and some of the tricks or mechanisms they use are forcing them to do something they do not want to do, luring them to do things that they would not normally do, and often there is coercion, and there is also gang-related involvement, drug-related involvement. So basically moving individual from one place to next for the exploitation or profit for traffickers.
So is it really a problem in Minnesota? You said it's a big problem in the world, but that's other places, right?
Right. We often think that Minnesota nice, that means it does not happen in Minnesota.
Right, absolutely.
But Minnesota actually is number 13th in the nation in
Wow.
terms of human trafficking ranking.
How do they do that? By charged cases or?
There are different ways to do it. One is how many cases have been actually identified. And then another one is how many visas or different types of visas have been issued. Another one is a type of activities that is taking place within our community. And of course, there is a different factors that create human trafficking. For Minnesota being number 13th is because we have a Duluth. Duluth is international port. However, we do not have a homeland security. So when we go to Duluth and to enjoy the beautiful the scenery and the changing of the colors, we don't really think about human trafficking.
No, I don't. Honestly.
Yeah, it's what happens. The big barge will come in, and they will stop in the close to the where they're supposed to in the port. You will see small boats will go in and transfer individuals, and then right through the Twin Cities, right in our backyard.
And what are they doing with them? I think the one that comes to mind is prostitution.
Typically, one would think it's a prostitution, but 1/3 of victims are actually labor trafficked. Labor trafficked it's very commonly practiced throughout the world, and right here in Minnesota, we have meat packing industries.
Right.
We have it's our neighborhood is more a farm community. So actually, some of the farm community or farm owners can and will invite individuals from different country legally for 2 months visa. When they get in here, what happens is they seize those documents, and you are under their control, and you have to do whatever they tell you to do.
And if they don't, then they'll call and have you arrested as an illegal alien or something.
Thank you.
Phrase.
But thank you for bringing that up, because what happens when international population comes into our backyard right here in Minnesota, they do not know the language.
Right.
They do not know the culture, and they are very fearful of their own life because of the traffickers, and they do not know where to go and ask for help. As soon as the documents are been kept in their mind, they feel they are automatically illegal, and therefore, if they do decide to go and find law enforcement agencies, they will not. They feel, or the traffickers have somewhat brainwashed. So what happens is that they feel like I rather suffer than trying to bring my family members into this chaos. What I mean by that is, let's say if I'm a trafficked individual, the trafficking is being the second largest industry in the world. What happens is it's a criminal activities is taking place.
Right.
And there is a threat to my family, my community, and to my siblings if they are in this country, and myself. So what often happens is they manipulate, they control those individuals, and then it's basically brainwashing. And often
Is it accurate after their visa expires they are illegals though? I mean,
I guess in a general term, and right now this is a big political issue too. It's an immigration population, but as soon as an individual comes here with free will, with the visa, and if visa expires, yes, they are illegal. However, individuals who are brought here through the false pretenses, and if they are identified as a trafficking victims, and then we can go to different stage to get them or secure them the legal status.
so I think we're jumping to if they ask for help, if somehow they find out there's help for them, there's things you can do so they won't be or perhaps won't be deported, right?
Correct.
So we're jumping to that. So let's go
Yeah.
back to how this happens first in Minnesota. It's not just through Duluth, right?
Correct. It's not. Duluth is number one. Number two is it's farming community. A lot of immigrant farm workers are coming up.
Well,
And then next one is the Minnesota is surrounded with the Native Americans reservation. Natural curiosity for young people is to find out what is outside world has to offer. So they tend to run away. As soon as they run away, the pimps or traffickers are so trained, they will identify those individuals within 24 hours to 34 hours. And then they kind of lure into them to their industry.
and
What-
then they trap them there.
Yes. What I mean by that is basically the individual may be running away from home because it's a broken home, dysfunctional households, drugs and alcohol abuse perhaps, poverty is a big factor. You are not receiving the love and affection that you would like to have. So when you run away, someone like myself, who's a pretty good looking guy, would come to young lady and buy you the purse that you always wanted. I'll buy you a shoes that you always wanted. And then eventually, once you lure into your control, that's the traffickers or the pimp, then you start to introduce alcohol and drugs. And you have a rite of passage, you have a gang rape. And so initially what happens to those individuals is they feel shame, they feel guilty about running away from home. Now they are facing this dilemma. Should I go home or should I continue to do what I'm doing today? And then the guilt and shame start to come in, and the alcohol and drugs started to numb their pain, psychological, physical pain, and then you become addicted to alcohol and drug. And once you get addicted to those drugs and alcohol, you will do anything to buy that drug or alcohol, chasing that high. So it's vicious cycle. That's one. That's third one. And then we have Mall of America right here.
Right.
Large, noisy, and it is where the hub of transportation of handing off the victims.
Really?
Yes, because
Did you know all this?
did you know
No.
that, Gary?
No.
I'm very surprised.
Good reason I don't go out the Mall of America.
So what happens is it's really hard to prove an individual suspected traffickers or pimp that the illegal activity is taking place because there's no evidence. It could be your sister, it could be your mother, it could be your aunt. A whole range of issues comes up.
And there
Whereas-
is a great deal of ethnic diversity
Right.
out at the Mall of America because it attracts people from all over the
all
world.
over the world.
Yeah, major shopping areas.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not unusual to have different languages, different looking people than your basic Minnesotan there, if there is such a thing as a basic
I don't think
Minnesotan
there is
anymore.
anymore, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to pinpoint that who's been actually trafficked. Whereas if you have a drugs, you have evidence. If you have a gun or a weapon, you have evidence. Whereas